I know Arjan Sikri, the Supreme Court Justice for 7+ years. I know Arjan Kumar Sikri, the Justice and Chief Justice of Delhi High Court and Punjab and Haryana High Court Chief Justice for 21 years. But I know Arjun, the human being, and my dear SRCC classmate for 49 years plus, and that's a lot. So of course, in college, we used to fight for the top positions in the class, but we also used to cooperate, share notes, and discuss all subjects. I used to be at his house very regularly for lunch, being very near to SRCC, and there was always a standing invitation for me at his place. So I have had great times there. We used to listen together to very famous professors like KPM Sundaram, Professor Pandey, Braj Kishore. Full credit to Arjun that all his school and college friends are still his very close friends. Two outstanding qualities of Arjun are: A, he's never refused help to anyone amongst his friends or whoever has asked him for help. And two, as you can also see, he's always smiling. He's been very often in private polls, polled as the most popular judge in Delhi High Court and Supreme Court. Amongst his philanthropic activities, he started a cricket tournament in the name of his father. He was also a person who had one of the highest productivity in number of cases and judgments in the Delhi High Court when he was there. No wonder today there is a queue of people for arbitration before him after he is retired, and there are rumors that he has been found to be working harder than before of late. He is supported in all his endeavors by his charming wife Madhu, who is as close a friend as Arjun is. While many people say, and I believe them, that I haven't done badly for myself, maybe I'm boasting, but the stratospheric achievement of Arjun to reach the Supreme Court of India is like a dream for anyone. Someone who's just 9th from the top in the order of precedence as per our constitution out of 130 crore Indians. Wow. It's a stunning achievement by my classmate, and I'm really proud to say I'm his classmate. So as an eminent jurist, he's of course well known for his landmark judgments in the fields of human rights, IP matters, amongst many other matters. He was chosen as one of the 50 most influential persons in the world on IP issues in recognition of his contribution to the law. He is currently an international judge of the Singapore International Commercial Court, chairman of the National Court Management Systems, News Broadcasting Standards Authority, amongst many, many other important assignments. And now I'm happy to be presenting to the 4 Rotary clubs of Pune the very, very, very distinguished Justice AK Sikri. Guys, give him a hand, electronically or otherwise, and over to you, Arjan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nanda, Raman Nanda, my dearest friend, for your generous introduction. I would add only one thing. When he said that, look, we used to fight for the top position and in SRCC, but the other thing which he did not say was that I never could get that position because it was always stolen by Ramananda only, who came first in all 3 years in Delhi University, and he was topper of Delhi University also. I felt a sigh of relief when he thought that he should do now management course, IIM Ahmedabad. When he went there, thereafter I started coming first in LLB, and of course thereafter. So, and maybe that he did not join the profession, and therefore I had no competition. I could go up to the Supreme Court as well. So that is what Ramananda. Anyway, my thanks to all of you for giving me this opportunity. And I may say that I'm a privilege to be here among you Rotarians who believe in creation of a friendly community with the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood, who believe in the welfare not only of its members, but the entire community, who in the process work tirelessly with monetary contribution as well as contribution of love of labor for the marginalized, weaker and deprived sections of the society, who have undertaken various welfare projects to achieve these goals with underlying motto of karma, that is duty, with enjoyment alongside. Your contribution in making the world a better place is well recognized. I feel humbled to be in the company of such spirited public persons who have come together from all walks of life under the umbrella of this prestigious club. I have not become a member of Rotarian, any Rotary club. Initially, maybe in the beginning, you are trying to establish yourself in a career. And afterwards, when I became judge in that capacity, it was not necessary to become member. But I have attended few functions organized by Rotarians, and one I still remember distinctly was in Delhi in 2009, where I shared dais with none other than Professor or Dr. Abdul Kalam in Delhi, and it was on some our democracy in our country. That's so was such a vital subject on this. So I have, in that sense, some attachment with Rotarians and a few others as well. But as far as Rotary Pune is concerned, I feel more privileged that, as I was told in 1985, when you started your Pune chapter, it was inaugurated by none else than the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Chandrachud. And thereafter, after 35 years, I am the second person who has come to your club. So therefore, placing me alongside Justice Chandrachud, that is an added pleasure for me. And because of that reason, I again thank you for inviting me. The question that arises is, and I thought, of course, when Mr. Ramananda talked to me, I think within few seconds, this idea came to my mind that why not speak on fundamental duties? But then I was thinking thereafter, I was just, I mean, uh, why I chose this subject for Rotarians who are already so much devoted to their duties, and that is their motto. And therefore, whether it is necessary to have this subject for people like you. And secondly, another thing which came in my mind was that, look, this is a fundamental duties when we talk of, which is enshrined in our constitution. And I know most of you are non-lawyers. So am I talking on a subject which is a legal subject? And would it be proper to talk about these subjects? But then, of course, this kind of dilemma remained in my mind only for a couple of minutes. And I got answer to both the questions. Insofar as need to discuss the fundamental duties with audience like you is concerned, the answer was that Constitution of India is not only for lawyers, the judges and the legal system, but every citizen of this country needs to know the basic value of the constitutional, which Constitution imbibes. And that would be a general discussion. And insofar as second question is concerned, I decided that the contents of my talk, and that is what I am explaining at the beginning itself, the contents of my talk would be such that I have eschewed legalistic approach. I'm not going to discuss on fundamental right, fundamental duties. This is the language, how it is interpreted by the Supreme Court. These are the judgments, etc. But I'm going to make it a more general discussion, which may be relevant for each and every person in the society or in our country. And so therefore, that is how I have taken this subject, keeping in view this. So the question is, when we talk of fundamental rights, let me start it with giving some introduction to you about our constitution and constitutional scheme. Of course, I would not detain you much on that, and would be stating it in a very simple terms, which would be understood by all of us. It has been known in the history of mankind and the way nation states have been formed, that the insofar as democratic form of governance is concerned, by far it has been treated to be the best form of governance. And in a democracy where people, they join together and they elect their representatives who have to govern. So we say that yes, XYZ to whom we elect, that you can govern us. But that not for all time to come, because then elections take place after every 5 years, where the electorate, that is the people of the country, have to come and change those who govern us also. In that sense, power lies with the people of the country. And a political scientist, Thomas Hobbes, mentioned or gave it a nomenclature of social contract, that it is based on social contract theory, where all persons join together and they decide how the society would be or how the nation would be governed. And but at the same time, once this kind of power is given to those who are elected, they should not have arbitrary power to govern. They should, their power should be confined and it should be regulated by rule, what we call rule of law. So therefore it becomes important to have a written constitution which prescribes the limit of governance. And in that sense, we not only the the elected representative, but other institutions also. We have primarily three institutions or three arms of the state, which is, it is called the parliament or the legislature, then the executive, and the third is judiciary. But then all three are governed by the rules of the constitution, and the constitution in that sense gives them, they prescribes the limits. And therefore it is, maybe it is a rule of majority, but then that may be a kind of formal democracy. We talk of substantive democracy or liberal democracy. So liberal democracy in that sense is governed by rule of law. It is based on principle of separation of powers, as I said, among the three institutions, and those three institutions have also to work in accordance with what is stated in the constitution. Any wings of the government, maybe it judiciary, if they transgress their power, then that action can be challenged in the court again, and the court, even the court can rule on the decision of the judiciary also on administrative side as others, and it has to be so therefore it has to be kept within the confines of the constitution. And when I talked of social contract theory, it is based on fundamental principle, that is principle of liberty. When this social contract, we give our right to govern on ourselves, but that doesn't mean we forsake our liberty or all those values. And therefore any written constitution uh, in that sense has to have, we call it the principle of constitutionalism. And there are two types of constitutional principles which are enshrined. One, as I have said, the based on liberty of the persons, and the limited government, which is governed by rule of law, separation of powers, etc. This is what we call negative constitution, that is which gives the power, limited power to the any government to govern. The other side of the constitution, which is called constitutionalism, which is called positive constitutionalism, it is that okay, the government, any government which is elected, that does not mean that it has only right to govern law and order, etc. At the same time, it is supposed to work for the benefit of people, that is social welfare, solidarity, economic equality, social justice, etc. This the constitutional experts say uh, is the positive constitutionalism. Now, when we talk of our constitution imbibes all the three elements, and these are contained in. That is why I said our constitution is based on these trinity of constitutionalism, and these three provisions are part 4 of the constitution, which talks of fundamental rights. All kinds of fundamental rights are given to the every citizen of this country, which is not only right of equality, but there are 7 freedoms which are given in the in article 19, that which includes freedom of speech, freedom of movement freely throughout wherever I want to go, freedom of forming the association, like your club is there, nobody can deny that. That is a freedom which is given in the constitution. And freedom of right to carry on business, trade, or avocation, etc. There's these kinds of freedoms are given. And article 21, which is again the right to life and right to liberty, is given. Apart from that, there are many articles. It is not necessary to go into that, What I'm trying, because we are on social, on fundamental duties, but it was necessary to say that these are in part 4 are the fundamental duties given. Then part this 4, sorry, part 3 fundamental rights. Part 4 is fundamental directive principles of state policy. Now, these directive principles of state policy are the matters which are any state or the government is supposed to follow for good governance and for achieving what I said was positive constitutionalism, social welfare, solidarity, economic equality, etc. And now, along with that comes the third thing is fundamental duties. But before coming to fundamental duties, the interesting thing which I have to say is in 1950, when the constitution was drafted, it came into effect from 26 January 1950. That is why we celebrate Republic Day. And interestingly, there was no, you're going ahead. There was no chapter. I said I will tell you. There was no chapter or no provision of fundamental duties. This is very interesting thing. And not that the fundamental duties was not in the mind of the constitution makers. In fact, at that time, there was this uh, on Gandhian concept, which is called Gandhian Constitution of Free India, which was drafted by one Gandhian economist, Shriman Narayan Agrawal. And he, in that draft constitution, which he had given to the Constituent Assembly, there was a chapter on fundamental duties, which was based on Gandhian concept. If you Gandhi's, one of the very famous saying is that India is essentially Karam Bhumi, on which I will develop, and that is why I'm saying India is essentially Karam Bhumi, that is land of duty, in contradistinction to Bhog Bhumi, that is land of enjoyment. And therefore, in that Shriman Narayan Agrawal, in that constitution said that there should be rights, duties also, which are to be prescribed, which the citizens are supposed to follow. And it said that the true source of right is duty. Even in the right, he found duty. If all and if all discharge their duties, he said, then rights are not far to seek. It will automatically come. But when the constitution, and it was discussed, a very interesting thing, on the same hypothesis or on the same principle, fundamental duties was not incorporated, because the Constituent Assembly thought that every right implies and includes a duty. So if I have a right, there is a corresponding duty is on my neighbor. If wife has a right to equality, there is a corresponding duty on the husband to give that equality. And if the right of the people to rebel against the government, it is the duty of the government to hang the people for rebellion. So therefore, they thought that along with, it's just the reverse thought process. The Gandhian constitution said that from duties automatically rights would come, whereas the Constituent Assembly thought that once the rights are there, automatically duties would be first and corresponding duties of the citizens would come. So this is how that is why this in the Constitution chapter of fundamental duties was not added at that time. But then what happened? Over a period of time, as we have seen, and again, I'm not going into that aspects, which may be again legalistic, but the people started fighting only of their rights, and they would see only their rights, whether it is any agitation it is going on, any demands which are going on, or whether a person is working in a particular establishment as a worker or as a government employee, etc. What are my rights? Nobody thought of duties. This is how, that is the irony it went. And as I describe this position, that I would think only of me and not you, the other side, that whether I owe this duty. And this I versus you was the position which should have been we, that we should think together. And but then this was taken care of very interestingly again during emergency by Indira Gandhi. She brought about the amendment. This is called 42nd Amendment in the Constitution in 1976. And this chapter of fundamental duties was added. And so therefore, today in our Constitution, this is the trinity which I say: fundamental rights are there, directive principles, what are the obligation of the state is there, and now today their obligation of the citizens are also there to achieve what I called positive constitutionalism, that is the solidarity, egalitarian society, where the, I mean, that is what the aim is of these. And if I tell you, next, these are the duties which are originally in 10 duties were there, fundamental duties, and in 86th amendment in 2002 11th duty was also added. And with what are these duties, I'll tell you in I mean, one by one I'll read. The fundamental duty to abide by constitution and respect its ideal and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. Number 2, the fundamental duty to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Number 3, to uphold the protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Number 4, to defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. Number 5, to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Then number 6, the fundamental duty to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Number 7, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Next 8, to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. Next is to safeguard public property and abjure violence. Then uh, 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 10th is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities so that the nation constantly rises to higher level of endeavor and achievement. And the 11th duty which was added in 2002 is that the duty on a parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. So not only it is made fundamental duty by adding Article 21A, as far as children are concerned, it is made fundamental right for them also to have the education. Now, as I said earlier, I don't want to adopt a legalistic approach. Now, what is the, whether these duties are any law, whether these can be specifically enforced if a person doesn't do that, etc. Because a very, I mean, great constitutional expert, H.M. Sirvai, has said that it is only an innocuous chapter and it is not a law and it is there only for the sake of it. But let me tell you, the Supreme Court in many cases has said, sorry, it is not so. And these duties, they, and a very interesting another interpretation which is given, that not only, and many cases which are decided stating or telling the people about these fundamental duties, many issues are decided, but also saying once these fundamental duties are there on the state, on the citizens collectively, since they form state in the form of this social contract theory, as I said, then therefore indirectly these are to be performed by the state also. So, but I'm not going into that. I want to make us understand what are the significance of the duties in our day-to-day life, and what is the aim of these duties, and what is the message these duties are conveying. That is my purpose of today's discussion. So with that, before going into that, I will next. I will go to India, our past glory, what it was. As I said, that Gandhiji earlier described India to be Karam Bhumi. And what India was once upon a time, it can be quoted. I will quote Frederick Max Muller, who has said about India, if I were to look over the whole world to find out the country most richly endowed with all the wealth, power, and beauty that the nature can bestow, in some parts a very paradise on the earth, I should point to India. If I were asked under what sky the human mind has most fully developed, some of its choicest gifts, most deeply pondered on the greatest problems of life, and has found solutions of some of them which well deserve the attention even of those who have studied Plato and Kant. I should point to India. And if I were to ask myself what literature we here in Europe, we who have been nurtured almost exclusively on the thoughts of Greeks and Romans, and some Semitic race, the Jewish, may draw the corrective which is most wanted in order to make our inner life more perfect, more comprehensive, more universal, in fact, more truly human a life, not for this life only, but a transfigured and eternal life again. I should point to India. This is what India was, which German scholar Muller said. And I think when he's talking about this human mind most fully developed, deeply pondered on the greatest problem of life, provided those solutions, etc. And if we go to our past scriptures, etc., and all those literature and all those saints who have written about it is on karma theory, which says that we should do our karma without expecting any reward for that, which Gita says, and based on dharma. So this karma and dharma, I think they point towards the fundamental duties, if I say so. And it is because the people in that era, and when India was having such glory, were professing that we had such kind of nation which we cherish even today, our past glory. But the question is, I say yes, yes, this that that was yeah. Now you come to next. That was the past. Now, what is we have in present today? If I see that today we are facing problems of maladministration and miscarriage of justice. There are problems of poverty, hunger, malnutrition, food adulteration. Even after more than 70 years of independence, we have not been able to provide potable drinking water to the people of this country. Criminals are ruling the roost, with large scale of crimes, including murders, dacoities, and white collar crimes. White collar crimes, with the way it is exponentially, growing, which has assumed frightening and varied proportion. Women are not safe. There are frequent incidents of rape, molestation, sexual harassment at workplaces, cases of bride burning, and dowry deaths. This is the state of affair. And Palki Wala, one of the noted jurists who belong to Bombay and your state, and he has been one of the best counsel in India in post-independence era. 40 years ago, he said that the immediate future seems to belong to doomsayers rather than to the cheermongers. We suffer from fatty degeneration of conscience, and the malady seems to be not only persistent but prone to aggravation. The lifestyle of too many politicians and businessmen bears eloquent testimony to the truth of the dictum that single-minded pursuit of money impoverishes the mind, shrivels the imagination, and desiccates the heart. And very strong words he uses, the tricolor fluttering all over the country is black, red, and scarlet. So instead of those colors which are we are having saffron, white, and green, he says black, red, and scarlet, black money, red tape, and scarlet corruption. This proves that we have landed ourselves from Karam Bhumi to Bhog Bhumi. This is what I say. And Palki Wala gave two reasons for this state of affair. First was, as a nation, we have scant concern, Abhi, for public good, and far too few citizens are interested in public welfare. He is talking obviously of disregard to duties which citizens owe to nation. Secondly, he said there was general lowering of standard in public and private life. According to him, moral and spiritual recession was worse than even economic recession. He again is referring to lack of sense towards fundamental rights. If we say, when we talk of duties, and even those who are in their respective positions, whether it be, we start from the three pillars of the state, as I said, whether they are the legislature or parliamentarians, or whether that is executive or bureaucracy, or I will include even the judiciary. How many of us are doing our duty faithfully? Take an example, any employee, whether it's a government employee or a private employee, how many of them, even the job which is assigned to them, which becomes their duty, how many of them do their duty faithfully and with honesty? How many businessmen are doing their business, which is their duty again? Of course, duty to, right to earn is there, but duty is there to do that business faithfully and without corruption and without even allowing corruption to happen. How many of them are doing? So that is the what is happening today. And in this scenario, what is the role next? And which duties bring about? What is the significance of duties if we have to take care of this situation which is prevailing today? So I would start that this, as I said earlier also, the concept of duties is not that once it is provided in fundamental duties, it was there and it was not there earlier. I talked of our past glory where dharma prevailed, where duties prevailed, where people were thinking of karma. And this is not only in Bhagavad Gita, it is in Bible, it is even in Quran. It is, these are the basic postulates of the social contract principle which I said. And if you see many great thinkers, I don't want to go into that. Cicero, 2000 years ago, he wrote, and his book is on duties. The title is On Duties, and it is interestingly a three part letter which he addressed to his son. And if he said there, for for who would presume to call himself a philosopher if he did not inculcate any lessons of duty? And he also said that he pointed out to Plato and said that we are not born for ourselves alone, but our country claims a share for our being, and our friends at a share. We are social animals born for the sake of each other. I think that is a concept which has to be incorporated and which has to be seen in the chapter on fundamental duties, which I said. And likewise, many other thinkers have said. I don't want to go into those details, but then what it happens is that my message or what I want to convey is that the fundamental duties which are now incorporated, whether they were there or not, the way our constitution makers thought in 1950 without providing that chapter, still in any civilized country, any nation who wants to develop, and it is not only the economic development, and even with economic development, egalitarian society where inequality is to be removed, fundamental duties become important, which every citizen has to perform. And but with the chapter inclusion of this chapter in the constitution, which is our ground norm, and I call, we may call our holy books are either Gita or Bible or Quran. According to me, for a secular country like India, the noblest book is the Constitution of India. And if Constitution of India has this chapter on fundamental duties today, this is a telling example to, or a message to everybody that look, it is our now constitutional duty also to perform these duties. And you have seen these 11 duties which I read. Let me see and put it in 4 buckets. If I say, one is duty towards nation, that 4 or 5 first duties were towards nation. Second was duty of brotherhood and promoting harmony. Third was duty to protect environment. And fourth was duty towards children of this country. And this was added because that our children in the country, they are our future. And therefore we owe a duty towards them also, which has become today a fundamental duty. Now, interesting thing is how we, this is what I feel, how we have the fusion of rights on the one side and the duties on the other side. No doubts, rights are very, very important. All those fundamental rights are there, as I said, to ensure limited government, that no government becomes despotic, and the government has to act within that rules, and at the same time they have to protect the rights of all the citizens. If I have a right to speak, a right to speech, then my right to speech also includes to criticize even the government if it is in the wrong. No doubt about it. If I have right to freedom of movement, that doesn't mean that it is unnecessarily curtailed by anybody. If I have right is there of liberty, which the Article 21 says that no person can take the life and liberty of a person without process of law. That means I cannot be arrested unless there is a process for law. I cannot be sentenced to jail unless the court has declared me a criminal and I have been found to be a convict of some crime, or can take away my life. So these rights are very important. But all these rights are, again, this is my hypothesis, are based on the concept of dignity. That this is the dignity which is attached to an individual. Once we accept this dignity, which is to be given to each individual, then fundamental duties become correspondingly, which Gandhian constitution, Gopal Narayan, this Agrawal, when he met, said that the duties first, right will follow automatically. If I have to accept the dignity of a person, then I have to then do my duty to ensure that the dignity is there. And in this sense, what it follows, that what kind of, you see, under the constitution there is a provision for giving, we are all citizens of this country. That is the legal status which is given to us. This is given by birth. If I am born in this country, I automatically become citizen. I can acquire citizenship also, that Citizenship Act is there. And if you know this recent CAA, where this citizenship can be given, which became the matter of controversy in other sense. But then if I am a citizen, the question is, with this fundamental duty, whether I only remain as a citizen, what kind of citizen I have to be. There I feel that these fundamental duties, next one, they make us, and I have used this expression, they aim to make the citizens as enlightened citizens. I have prefixed this adjective, enlightened citizens, and a civilized and a socially conscious person who must cultivate two sets of discipline. The first, self-chastening. I have to improve my character in that sense. And the second, other regarding, I have to give regard to the other also in that sense. And that is what actually I'm reminded of one anecdote. I'll narrate it here. One foreigner came to India, and he was there in India for 4 or 5 weeks. He traveled throughout India, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states. And he had a friend, one or two Indian friends who were with him. When he was going back, his friends asked him that how you found India and how you found Indian people of India. He said, India is a fascinating country, no doubt about it, which is said about the various places and where he had gone and all he described. But he said, the second question you are asking, I have not understood. Indian people? I didn't find any Indian in your country. When I went to Maharashtra, everybody was saying, I am Maharashtrian. When I went to Punjab, everybody was saying, I am from Punjab, I am a Punjabi. When I went to Kerala, everybody was saying, I am a Keralite. I found very few persons who said that I am an Indian. That is what is lacking. And I think if we have this, we feel this kind of feeling that we belong to India and we are Indians, that kind of nationalism, that makes us enlightened citizen. And that is what is required from, and if we follow these duties, then I would say that we become the enlightened citizen of this country. Next. Now, I had said what the kind of state of affair we have in India today. But then I again said all is not lost at the same time. It's not that we have to only show the bleak picture. And we know, after notwithstanding all this, how much progress India has achieved in last 70 years. The nation has also produced umpteen number of enlightened citizens who have contributed their might in advancing the social and economic justice. Today, till few years ago, some time ago, India was a non-existing country insofar as Europe or America is concerned, not any longer. Today, we are given much more respect. So that is the achievement as far as India is concerned. And if we say that on the one hand, as I said, that bleak picture, at the same time, we have Samaritans. We have people like you. Rotarians or other such public spirited person who still think about the nation, who still think they're conscious about their duties. The only thing is the number of such people is very, very few in this country. That is our tragedy. And next. And another interesting thing which has come during COVID, which the situation which we are, this COVID pandemic, which we are, apart from so many challenges, it has also shown the, the public spirit which is imbibed, which is inherent in the people of this country. That has come out. If we see that this feeling that in the face of threat of death, human beings have only begun to reflect seriously. The greedy heart is purified by the virus. The environment is no more polluted. The nature has, because environment, if you see, one of the fundamental duties, the nature has proved that it is mightier than humans. The virus has reminded us that there is an almighty and humans are just human. People have become more philanthropic. They are taking care of the hungry people by feeding them. They have not only understood the plight of laborers, migrant laborers, which we have seen, the daily wage workers, the way we want to help them out and want to give them the employment, etc. I logged in 10, 15 minutes earlier and I was listening to you people when you were discussing that during COVID, what you are rendering. So all this, I think it has brought out the inner, an inherent quality which is there in every human being, that in this brotherhood, we have to help others, and therefore this is the COVID time in which that has become necessary. And in this context, if I say, rights and duties form an integral part of Indian constitutional architect. Justice in these grave times, that is COVID times, I'm saying, comes through unknown social groups, the messiahs for migrants who have overcome the socio-economic differences and are managing to salvage the right to life for the improvised. In these, it is these citizens who have paved the way for the erasure of embedded social difference. After all, Article 51A D was that you, if you read it again, that if you have to come out for doing service to others, was in Article 11 duties, which I said, D was this duty of the Indian Constitution calls upon every citizen to render national service in times of need. It is not that the people of this land must wake up to eliminate corona untouchability, which I called, or corona racism, thereby compelling even the courts and the state to opt for court correction. Even where the court has lagged, it is the people who have to come out and tell the courts also, you are lacking, it is your duty to you do it. And next. So with this, what I say is that with the beacon of fundamental duties, let us regain our glory, and which we can definitely do so if we become conscious of our duties. And uh, I would read these lines which I have written at the end, that therefore we do not have to lose heart. We do not have to give up efforts. There is no such thing as great talent. Um, this is not coming. Without great willpower, we can have anything we want if we want it desperately enough. We must want it with exuberance that erupts through the skin and joins that energy that created the world. We do not lack either talent or willpower or exuberance. If we keep aside our personal and vested interests and have public and national interest in mind and use our talent, willpower, and exuberance in that direction, like the true enlightened citizens, we shall be able to restore the glory of our great nation, what it was at one point of time, as projected by Max Muller and what I read. And I would end by quoting Dr. Arnold Toynbee, and which he said, and I quote, "It is already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending, if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At, at this supreme, no, you are wrong, leave it there. At this supremely dangerous moment in human history, the only way of salvation of mankind is the Indian way. Emperor Ashoka's and Mahatma Gandhi's principles of non-violence and Sri Ramakrishna's testimony to the harmony of religions. Here we have an attitude and spirit that can make it possible for human race to grow together into a single family, and in the atomic age this is the only alternative to destroying ourselves. Western countries, they are looking to us. They want to take away from us the values which we nourish, which we cherish. But we have to now bring back those values within ourselves and have to work. I would say again at the end that look, why I have said all those when you are already doing these duties. You are already conscious of this fundamental duties. One thing was to tell exactly what these duties are, and other thing was just to inspire you to do something more, which you can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Sikri. This is Raman here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Raman. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I think that was very enlightening. Maybe covering all the aspects of duties, and especially telling us what to do. But your presence on this webinar, if you can call, or on this meeting, has inspired lots of Rotarians to ask many questions. So I have the tough job of trying to sift through them and present them to you. So the first one is from a President Ajay, who's asking, should the fundamental duties bifurcated into enforceable and non-enforceable?
Actually, I tell you, this is again, this has been always a matter of debate. Uh, Even when I told when the Constituent Assembly debates, because I did not refer to those, but then there are constituent debates also on this. When the Constitution was being framed, and as I said, they ultimately decided not even to have these duties, because when we are giving rights, duties automatically come along with that. So people should be conscious of their duties also. In 19 this when this by 42nd Amendment, when it was introduced, it was on the basis of that Justice Soren Singh Committee's report, and in his report he had mentioned that some of the duties should be enforceable, and therefore if a person is not performing the duty, then the other person should have right to go to the court and seek a mandamus that this duty should be performed. But this particular part of his report was not accepted. And even when this chapter, which was introduced in article, as I said, the constitution makers at that time also, I won't say constitution, but in amendment, the parliament at that time thought that, look, providing these fundamental duties and telling the citizens what they are supposed to do, it should be self-regulated, and it should not be number one. Number two, which is more important according to me, is that even if it is made enforceable, some of it, it would become very, very difficult in real life to enforce these duties. And because these duties are not on the state, these are on the citizens.
Yeah.
As well as, and another interesting phenomena is the directive principles of state policy, which are in chapter 4, they are also not enforceable. Although those duties or principles which the state is bound to follow, and even those are, which was said in the very beginning, that
Right.
although the right of the chapter on fundamental rights, is justiciable. So if my right is violated, I have a right to come to the court and seek justice on that. But if the state is not performing any of the directive principles, then citizen cannot come to the court and seek a mandamus that they should perform those duties.
Okay.
But very interesting phenomena which took, I mean, development which took place was this. Uh, Many of the uh, directive principles are now made facets of fundamental rights by interpretative process by the Supreme Court. And main article here has been Article 21. If, as I said, Article 21 is nobody shall be deprived of his life and liberty except by process of law. Now, if any general, any common person would think right and life and liberty means, yes, as I gave the example, my life cannot be taken away. That means state cannot, I mean, hang me unless I've committed some crime for which I'm given the punishment of death. And likewise, nobody can put me behind bars unless I've committed a crime and the court has convicted me for that.
Okay.
So this is, but Article 21 is not read in this narrow sense. Article 21, when it says nobody shall be deprived of his life and liberty, they said, what is the meaning of life? And the meaning of life is expanded so much that here life does not mean life which is an animal existence. Life means dignified life. And that is why I said that around dignity. And today, without telling in details, only on Article 21, 40 rights are created. And this includes even right that your neighbor, if I mean in the evening, if there's a party going on and loudspeakers, etc., noise, but my right to have peaceful sleep is made a fundamental right. Right to, because that's a part of life. Right to have food. Now, the right to provide food and other things are in directive principles. This of equality, etc. That the equality, of course, is Article 41, but then the state would endeavor to bridge the gap between the haves and have-nots, etc. Principle, directive principles, but they are brought in Article 14 and Article 21, right to life, and all have become enforceable. So what I'm trying to say, let us see, there have few judgments have come on fundamental duties where they have mentioned about it. One which became very this controversial judgment was when the national anthem in the cinema halls is played, and therefore everybody should rise. It was based on, if you see, one of the fundamental duties is to give respect to national anthem.
Correct.
It is one of the fundamental. So the judgment was based on that. Of course, it thereafter the judgment was diluted to say that, look, that I mean it is expected of them that they should do and all that. But maybe time may come. We don't know the way innovative met by any innovative method. Some of these, particularly like environment, is also one of the fundamental duties. But environment becomes enforceable because of the law on environment, which is also there. So even if it is not enforced as fundamental duties, it can be enforced when we have an air act, we have a water act, we have all these acts are there. And we so therefore through these acts, and we have National Green Tribunal where the persons can go. So therefore those can be, and the provisions contained in these environmental laws can be interpreted along with Article 51A to give that meaning. So that, let us see, that may happen in future.
Okay. So Justice Sikri, as you know, as ordinary people, everyone is concerned about backlog of cases in courts. So a lot of questions are on that.
Fundamental duty of the judiciary.
Exactly. Fundamental duty of judiciary. So do you want to say something on that? Because
you see, I will tell both the things in favor and against the judiciary.
Right.
As far as in favor of judiciary is concerned, let me tell you that we have today more than 3 crore cases pending in the courts. And out of that, about maybe 40 to 40 lakhs, around that cases, 40 to 50 lakhs maybe in the high courts. about 50-60,000 are in the Supreme Court, and 2 crore 80-90,000 cases are at district court level. Now, how many judges we have? We have only in our country, I'm including not only Supreme Court, High Court, and subordinate judiciary also, only 22 or 23,000 judges to deal with this. We have the judge population ratio is maybe 18 judges or 19 judges, maybe say 20 judges per million of population. As against that, if I tell you in America, population judge ratio is 125. Even in, I think England, it must be 80 or 90. So we are 1/5 or 1/7 of that. So that is one reason. And if I tell you the judge in India is overburdened, there is no doubt about it. And the number of cases which we dispose in this country may be one of the highest in the world. In spite of that, there are arrears, and it is because today the judges are less. Having said so, in favor of the judges, let me tell you, as far as against the judges also is concerned. In spite of that, and here fundamental duties, when I just said that our even parliamentarian, executive, and I include the judiciary also, that many times, and that if all the judges, even the existing judges, with the existing strength, if all of them with the, I mean, devotion to their duty, if they start doing that kind of work, work that I tell you, most of the judges do there, but there are many who do not. Then we may not have at least that the area, the pendency may come down, and the lifespan of the cases also may come down, and it may not be at least the situation which Sunny Deol said, Tariq pe Tariq, Tariq pe Tariq. At least that can be avoided.
Uh, Thank you. I know there'll be many follow-ups on that. So I just want to say, do you see any straws in the wind that in the next 5, 10, 15 years, there could be some improvement in this? So that's a
Actually, I
follow-up.
tell you a very interesting thing which has taken place without going into detail. Not only, it's not that the judiciary is not conscious of this. There have been many steps taken. We have, just to educate judges, we have now today judicial academies, which was established about, say, 17, 18 years ago. And every state has judicial academy where judges are given training so that they become. We have the system of case management, court management, etc. How to club the cases which are of same nature so that they can be disposed of together. Likewise, how there should be a time management done. So on that, work is going on, no doubt about that. And then another thing which, so I'm not going into detail, but in present, at present, what is happening, I tell you, this COVID-19, which I said I mean, from fundamental duties point of view. Now COVID-19 has, because of this, when the lockdown is there and the people can't move around and the social distancing is there, today there is no physical hearing happening in any of the courts. And it is, we are using technology, and it is virtual hearing, video conferencing, like we are having it, this program. And this had made judiciary realized, even the government has come forward, that technology can play an important role. Up to now, technology was used for court management, case management, etc. But technology was used only for automation. Now technology we want to use from automation to transformation. And there was 2 months ago, maybe 1.5 months ago, there was one this closed meeting of 30-40 stakeholders was organized by Niti Aayog along with Supreme Court and some other ministries also, where, and it was private sector as well, that when now, why not make use of this technology which can, I mean, insofar as areas are concerned and insofar time lag or judicial reforms are concerned, with artificial intelligence and others, it can be done. And it is called now ODR, online dispute resolution, whether, and it is in three forms, in the court also, arbitrations also, and mediation as well, pre-litigation mediation also. So the detailed plan is now being worked out, and On that basis, last week, about 10 days ago, only committee has been constituted to work on that, and incidentally, Niti Aayog has uh, chosen me as the chairman of that committee. So let us see. We will start working on that, and whatever we can achieve, we will try to achieve.
I think our house feels that now it's become your duty to help the citizens of the country. So, on a lighter note, there is somebody who's seen you in the court. So, he has said in the past we have seen a bench comprising you and Justice Nariman dispose of so many complex tax cases in such a short time. In fact, the bench got reconstituted during Chief Justice Thakur's time, and there are many other great examples as well. So does it not go to show that it's possible to dispense effective justice despite limitations? A question from Amitabh Mukhopadhyay, which actually I've turned into an observation, but I hope you remember this period when you and Justice Nariman were handling the tax case.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question from Bhagwanti Nenwani, who's gone. Say, Constitution is sacrosanct, but do you think the current crop of politicians are upholding the constitutional norms in policies and actions? Any views on that?
You see, less said the better.
Okay.
Actually, problem is, as it is said, law is an ass also. And people, those who want to wriggle out of it, and those, there are many, and we have all kinds of lawyers. We have those lawyers with this kind of ingenuity who will try to find the loopholes and will try to find a way out of those situations. No doubt, at the end of the day, it becomes the duty of the judiciary to interpret law in such a manner that such things do not happen. If I tell you example, not that I'm saying that because I was the member of that bench and presiding that bench, and if everybody knows that Karnataka assembly case. Now, sometimes what happens when we had the hearing at midnight, when the governor wanted to invite Yedurappa, and he had claimed that he has the majority. And now question is very simple. We said that if you have the majority and you have written the letter, prove it. Now, in order to ensure that they are not able to play with the law, we said, sorry, we are giving you only 24 hours to do that. They kept on. I still remember there was Attorney General for India, the consul, Mr. Mukul Rothgi, who appeared for Yedurappa, and that who were invited, that give us at least, they started from 15 days, then 1 week, then they even came to 3 days. I simply said one thing, that look, you have already given a letter to the governor that you enjoy majority. If you enjoy majority, prove it tomorrow. Why you need 1 week for horse trading? These were my words in the open court. So therefore, if I mean, in such situations, it is for the court has to, and this happened again. Of course, this was repeated again recently, and where the court, I think, which was this Uttarakhand or where it was to happen. So therefore, uh, in order to ensure that nobody is able to play with the law, the judges have to come out. And as I always say, that there are two fundamental duties which a constitutional judge, that is of the High Court, Supreme Court, is supposed to perform, any constitutional judge. Number one is to uphold the constitution and the democracy, rule of law, constitution and rule of law. Number two, to bridge the gap between the law and the society. First is constitutional duty. We have to ensure that democracy thrives, and in all possible way it thrives, because the last bastion is I mean, Supreme Court only, or the judiciary. Because whenever there is a dispute, no doubt it has always been said whether it is the parliament which is superior or it is the judiciary which is superior. In separation of powers, nobody is superior. It is the constitution which is superior. But ultimate voice on that, what constitution says, that is for the judges to say, that is for the judges to interpret. So in that sense, the judges become the last arbiter, or final arbiter to decide this, and therefore it is their duty. And as far as duty to bridge the gap between the law and society is concerned, that comes to advance social justice. And as far as social justice is concerned, let me tell you, the Supreme Court, if one goes to the judgment, has an impeccable record. And it is appreciated not only within India, throughout the world. That is why in recent times and in this COVID times, when the court took some time or it delayed in taking up the issue of migrant laborers, which was again so there was a lot of criticism, and rightly so, I would say. But ultimately, they woke up and they started looking into that issue. Whether by that time it was delayed or what happened is not, for me to enter into that debate. But what I am saying is, this becomes a duty of the, when there is this power, with power comes a responsibility also. So judiciary also has to perform that duty.
Right. Justice Sikri, one question is coming that how do we, because let's say the rights are not enforceable, or sorry, the duties are not enforceable as per law in terms of penalty and so on. But is there a way that you think we should have more education of that to the public, including students? Many of my colleagues are asking questions that
I entirely agree. I think all of us are in that age group. If you, all of you remember, and I still remember when we were in schools, there was one subject on civil science, civic science. It is that civic science which used to, where we, as a kids, as toddlers, 4, 5 years, 6 years, 7, 8 years ago of age, we used to be told what is your I mean, in this civic science, even your duty towards your neighbor, when you should not throw the filth or everything outside, etc. All those things which are there, I mean, very small, small things. And that's, I think, I don't know when NCERT decided that this subject should not be there. It has to be, and it should be reintroduced. It is from the tender age. We have to tell them that, look, this is what the civic sense is. Since we are a social animal, we are the product of the society, we are the part of the society. What are my duties towards the society? Towards my neighbor, towards my fellow citizens. And that was a subject which we used to teach, we used to read in this civic science, I still remember, which should be introduced according to me.
So President Feroz Masters is asking if right is there to dignified life, why does it not cover euthanasia?
Euthanasia is covered.
Is covered?
There's a judgment now. I have written that judgment.
Okay,
You
so
see, this I tell you, euthanasia. There are two kinds of euthanasia in legal this thing, and one is called passive euthanasia, other is called active euthanasia. Now, passive euthanasia means that you simply withdraw the life support or the medicines, etc. So if I am in that state of affair, I don't want any medical treatment. If a person is very seriously sick and he is to be put on ventilator and he does not want that, that right is recognized. We had given that judgment. It is PUCL versus Union of India, and this is Constitution bench judgment. Of course, there's a first judgment which is called. It was in 2006. Justice Karju had given Schonbach case, and Schonbach case, which we refined that to great extent. Not only that, we recognized one thing more in this judgment. I'm so sorry that this judgment should be known to everybody. That purpose was awareness should come and people should know. Where we have even legitimized what we call living will. That today I'm a healthy person. I can write my will. Will is normally which comes into effect after the death of a person. Here it is called living will, which will come into effect even during my life. That it is regarding euthanasia, that I can say, if I am in this particular state of affair, my medical condition, because if I'm at that time, suppose a person goes into coma, at that time he can't take a decision. He is not in a position to take a decision. So therefore, decision is taken by family members at that stage. But I can write today, if that situation arises, please don't provide me any medical aid.
Okay.
Don't, I withdraw all medical aid and I will like to die peacefully.
It's very
That is not recognized.
okay.
The
Excellent.
active euthanasia is where it is induced, death is induced, that if I am in that situation, kill me, inject me. So that is not recognized, and that is rightly so not recognized, because that would be prone to much misuse. We have not reached that at that stage, because people will say the condition was such, and there may be some rich person who is on deathbed, and we have all not who know their fundamental duties, those who are greedy, they will say that its situation was such, we had to inject him, and so it amounts to murder today in our law. So therefore we could not have gone against that law also. So but passive euthanasia is recognized today.
Thank you, Justice Sikri. There are at least 100 more questions. So my only request is, if we invite you once again in the next 3
Yes,
to
yes.
6 months, will you be kind
Definitely.
enough to give us your
It,
time?
it would be my pleasure to interact with these questions. It would be better than giving a monologue and lecture only.
With that, I hand over the mic back to President for the final part of the program.
Thank you, Raman. I now request Rotarian Ajay Chitnis to propose a word of thanks.
Ajay? Okay.
Oh, is he not there? Signed off. Okay. Doesn't matter.
Links.
Yeah.
I think it looks.
I think
Yeah.
you can do the honors, Ajay.
Yeah. I would like to thank Justice Sikri for such an enlightening talk, talking about the three pillars and then the fundamental duties, the social contract, the principle of liberty. So we've learned a lot of things today. Also, the interesting history of the inclusion of fundamental duties, how the Gandhian constitution had a totally different take than the Constituent Assembly. That was a very interesting piece of information that I learned today, because and then the actual what matters is the significance of the duties in our day-to-day lives. How, as citizens, people have to sort of perform their duties so that we all live in a prosperous country, and there is general well-being all around. Uh, so I would now request Vimal to give us a small, citation. We are doing everything virtually now, really in appreciation of the time you took and enlightened us with your wonderful talk and answered the questions quite well. I think so. Thanks again, Justice Sikri, for. And as Raman said, we would love to invite you again to answer the remaining questions, and I'm sure by then there'll be a lot more added to the list. Thank you once again.
It was a real pleasure talking to this very enlightened audience.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Arjan.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for a great attendance
Thank you.
today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for the other members joining
Thank
us.
you.
Really good.
Bye. Bye, Arjan.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Meeting
you.
is adjourned.